We are in one of the cities of the seven churches of Revelation, Sardis. Now, Sardis became an imperial city. They're all imperial cities, but this one was known for its worship to Civil and also the goddess Artemis. More or less the same type of different names with the same type of worship. I want to give you a little history about that type of worship. But before that, I'm standing next to the bima in the Jewish synagogue that is found here in the city of Sardis. One of the most beautiful ones I've seen. It's very big with the mosaic, and we have a place for the Torah at the end. We're going to talk about that a little later. And then by my right side, we have the rotunda, half a rotunda where people will sit to hear the Torah. Now, remember, when we're dealing with Jewish people in Asia Minor, we're also thinking about Hellenized Jews. And you can see the influence of the Jewish people here by the syncretism, even in the bima. If you go to the lateral and the sides right here, you're going to see two eagles on the side. And I think a lot of the time they do these things in order to appease the Romans because they want to maintain relationship. But in this synagogue, we see the mosaics and we see all the beauty of it. Now, next to my right, there is a big gymnasium, huge gymnasium. We're going to see a little later. And I want to talk a little bit about not so much the history, but more so of what they worshipped here, Civil. And I want to highlight something that I think is important. In the worship of Civil and Artemis in this particular place, there's a cult, a type of worship that they did that we need to understand. Okay, so let me read it to you from the Lexham Bible Dictionary. It says, one of the most prominent mysteries, religions in Asia Minor involve the worship of the Great Mother of Anatolia. Anatolia is Asia Minor, which is modern-day Turkey. It's called Magna Mater, which is known as Civil, who was worshipped primarily in the provinces of Phrygia and Lydia. Now, Lydia, this is all part of ancient Lydia, and it's a huge history here. And one of the very prominent walls around Sardis at the time and its history. It's really amazing. If I tell you about the history, it's going to take a long time. But I want to give you more of the essence of why this was considered an imperial city. Anytime they do imperial cult, meaning that they worship the emperor, they build a temple and then they worship him as a god, okay, as a Lord and God. So in the first century, we know that the word kurios and theos can also be applied to the strength and the power of the emperor as divine. Okay, so that's important that you remember that. And it says, let me continue reading. Although the religion eventually expanded throughout the Roman Empire, a ritual, this is very important, a ritual associated with the cult was with the Torobolism, and Creobolism, in which the worshiper will stand in a pit under a wooden lattice as a bull and rams will be sacrificed above, bathing the worshiper in blood. Now, it's very important because in the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 5, I'm going to read it as it says this. Okay? And I want you to really pay attention to this one because many people get upset when we talked about this, but it's biblical evidence. Verse 5, and from Yeshua the Messiah, the faithful witness, and the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler of the kings of the earth, to him who loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood. The word there is not wash. The word is freed, released us from our sins by his blood. And that word should not be wash. It's not used, the Greek word is not used as washed anywhere. It's always released, or it's always to loose, something to free you, but not to wash you. So when we use the expression of washing, we are actually alluding to Civil, the worship of Civil, which is a fertility god. And that's a problem for me, because then we will continue to do exactly what it was done in the synagogue by doing the syncretism with the eagles, the Roman eagles, and some of the other things that you find in the area. A huge synagogue, prominent synagogue next to a gymnasium, when they would do sport next door naked, when they have bath, when they would do hot bath, cold bath, and they would do different types of things, exercise and political and also social and civic duties. What a contrast between a beautiful synagogue next to a place where they would just do things that are more associated with immorality. So let me continue here. The cult of Artemis bears similar similarities to the cult of Civil. Considering that Civil is a mother goddess, the connection lightly explained the features of iconography associated with the Ephesians of Artemis. Artemis, as we saw in Ephesus, was actually the worship of the fertility god. That's why the images, the pictures that we've taken with the imagery of the statue, we see the same thing too. So the imagery also certainly relates to fertility, which also developed from associations with Civil. So what we have in here is our cities that are in a particular path, roads that lead all across. Ephesus, you go through Magnesia. Magnesia, you go to Colosso, you go Laodicea, Polis. Then you go all the way to Philadelphia, which we were just there. There's really nothing there except some pillars, and that's it. And now we come to Sardis, and next we're going to go to Thyatira, and then we're going to end up in Pergamum, and finally in Smyrna. Now, this whole like a letters, like a postal letters type thing. The route is going through. But what's really peculiar is that every single city was an imperial city. So now you know that everything was focused on fertility rituals and worshiping the emperor and worshiping all of the other gods. And then we have a synagogue in the midst of them. A huge synagogue. By the looks of this, by the mosaic on the floor, by the incredible and how big the bima is. And I'll show you later on where they host the Torah. You can tell they have money here. So therefore, we saw the same thing in Laodicea. They had a huge Jewish community there. In Ephesus, a huge community there. So why are Jewish people so drawn to living in imperial cities? Because of merchandising, because of money. They were merchants, they were businessmen. The question is, are you going to compromise the truth for the money? Maybe that's the reason why the congregations that lived here, they were getting involved in the syncretism, and they were getting involved into the mixing the holy and the profane. Maybe that's why the letters were sent to them. As something that happened within the Jewish communities, blending in and losing their identity. Maybe the believers in Yeshua were doing the same. Something to consider when you look at the 7 churches of the book of Revelation. The archaeologists found an inscription right here in this place in which show that this was the location where they put the Torah scrolls. Now we took a compass, right? We wanted to see if it was pointing east. Sure enough, it's looking towards the east, exactly the way all the Jewish world, when they deposit the Torah in the ark, is actually always pointing towards Jerusalem, as we see that now, even in the diaspora, in Asia Minor, they maintain that custom that we are following up to this day.